This is a video to demonstrate pocketing operation in the Titan 1M part on Mastercam. So one of the basic commands we have is just the 2D pocket command. There are some other 3D pocket commands we can do and use here, like OptiRough, to do some very aggressive and advanced approaches. But we're just going to try out the basic pocket command here. And when I select it in the 2D section, it comes up and allows me to do a loop. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the bottom edge here and see that loop around and just check that off. And that's going to be the pocket we're going to work on. In order to create climb cutting, I guess I like this direction here for our final direction there. I wouldn't need to reverse that if that's what I'm seeing there. So I'll go ahead and hit the check. And we're going to go down here to our tool. And we're going to employ that 3/8 flute in 3/8 flat end mill that we chose previously for the contouring of this part. We'll also turn on the RCTF setting and increase our surface feet per minute to 250. That's going to increase our feed rate and our spindle speed, so we can do a little more high speed on this maybe. Something to work with there. Cut parameters. Let's take a look at cut parameters and see if there's anything in here we want to adjust. If we're going to be done at the end of this, we're going to change our stock to 0. We're going to try to do the rough and finish cut all at once, and we'll talk about how we can do that. But that means when we're done, we don't want to leave any stock on the walls. So let's go to the roughing setting here and see what we've got here. And one of the main things that I notice is this 0.1 corner smoothing radius, and that will disallow us from getting into a corner very well when we're putting a large smoothing radius on that. So we'll watch it like this, but we're going to come back and adjust that in a few minutes. The 1875 is a smart command. It's coming out of our tool diameter that's being 3/8, so it's choosing half that as a step over. And for roughing, we'll be okay with that. We'll just leave that how it is for now. We're not going to mess with the entry motion. We're fine with the helix method to plunge to our depths. Well, when we talk about depths, though, we want to. This is a pretty deep cut, so we're going to do some depths of cuts. Let's go ahead and set those to, I don't know, let's just go with 1/8 of an inch right now, not much. And we'll let the finish step, the last step, be smaller. So we'll leave that at whatever it tells us, 0.50 here. It's going to be fine. So we'll go back now and we'll look at the finishing, and we'll talk about the finishing and how many passes do we want to have, and this is going to be the size or the depth of the last cut of material we're going to take. So let's say that we're going to take 30 thousandths in our last pass around the object, around the interface with our flukes cutting. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and see what we get here. This is machine finished passes after roughing all pockets. Finish outer boundary, okay. And let's check lead in, lead out. It's just going to be fine. Linking parameters. I'm going to turn on my clearance to be absolute. And I'll turn on my retract to be absolute also. We could do some things with coolant and that later on. Let's go on and check this off. And you can see our toolpath in there right away. It generated one. And when we look down in it, we should see all the roughing passes and then the finish passes there. That's a lot of passes there. But let's go ahead and run it and see if we can make some adjustments then. I'm going to select all, and I'll choose the verify tool again. And that was really fast. That was set to full speed, so let's slow it down and maybe choose a little bit slower pass. So I've got my tool turned off. We can turn it on if we want to see it here. And it's still roughing. Okay, here comes our finish pass and done. All right, so we see some good things. It looks like my part isn't actually getting done in the edge here. If I compare this curvature to the original part, you see this flat area in here, and that is actually coming from that toolpath radius that I talked about. We're going to have to allow it to really go in hard on its corners. So right in here in roughing, we have the option to change this corner smoothing radius. And so in order to get this tool to really dive in there, we're going to have to make that a lot smaller. So I'm going to put in 30 thousandths and hope that that's going to get us in there deep enough to reach the geometry. We need a 190, I believe it's a 195 radius on these corners if we were to go back and check the print on this. In fact, let's see if we can do that real quick. Let's see what they gave us on those fillets. 188 on that one, and then 195 on all these inside other fillets. It says there's 13 of them there. So for us to achieve the 195, we're going to have to really get into these corners with our tool on this. So another thing that we want to, let's play with adjusting here, is machine the finish pass only at the final depth. So that means it's not going to step down as it goes around to do the finish pass. So we'll make these two changes. We're going to go ahead and hit this. So we expect two things. We expect to dive a little deeper into this corner because our toolpath doesn't have to be so rounded. And we're going to also expect to not see that finish pass go around 10 times or however many that was. We'll go ahead and regenerate the dirty operation, select all, and verify. And let's see what we're going to get here. So we'll run this. There's our facing. Here comes the roughing. Roughing operation already looks like it's getting into that corner nice. Right up in there. We're getting some hard turns out of our tool that allowed that to happen. And I saw the finish go around one time there. You see that last pass represented around the outside. So this is probably getting all our stock removed right here at this point. Sometimes one quick way to tell that is to turn on our workpiece, and then you can judge if you're machining in the corner or not and reaching into the workpiece. A few ways to get in there, but this is one good way to do it and kind of see. There's the stock, there it is removed, here's the workpiece, and whether or not we're able to reach in there. So I think we need to do the math on this and decide for that corner if we're going to work that roughing tool in a little tighter in those corners. So with that in mind, I would look at that 195, compare it to 1875, which is our tool radius, and consider the difference. And the difference is that we actually need to get a little bit tighter radius in here when we think about this. So we're going to go back to the parameters. We're going to go back to that corner smoothing, and we're going to tighten that up just a little bit. I think we need to be in there a little tighter on those. We'll run this one more time. Regenerate the dirty toolpath. Choose all operations and run it. There's a finish pass right around the outside of all this. Done. Check our piece stock. Looks like we got in there this time. Now I can see the red tells me that we're meeting that 195 diameter. We're kind of even with it here. If we wanted to get a little tighter, we could, but you see I keep tightening this tool radius right here and allowing the tool to get right in there. Now, if you needed to go to 0, you could really plunge in on a corner that radius matches the tool radius. And you'd have to go to 0 on that in order to do it, and then allow your tool to make hard corners like that. So it's not always advised, but when necessary to take a tool right into the edge, you can do that. So I'll just run it at 0 here, and we'll see the new tool path. It's going to really push those corners in to get the 095. And maybe this is what we need. But you see we're getting hard corners here, and we're getting a slight round on our finish pass. So that would tell me that we don't have to be that hard on it, but we do need something. So let's just put a 10 thousandths on there and regenerate it. And you can see this curve here, and we're getting still about the same, it looks like there. going to allow that tool to work into the corner in that pocket. Let's go ahead and run that one more time. Gen. Operations all. Turn off the workpiece. And go. Speed this up a little. That looks nice. Now we'll check our workpiece. And we got nice. We're getting contact everywhere here on all these surfaces between our workpiece and our machine stock. So you know we're reaching in there. You know we're getting a good part. Okay, next up is to finish out this pocket on the side and hole making. And we'll see you at the next section.